Welcome to Booking It. Today's episode will be Outlaws of Time. Hey everyone, welcome back to Booking It. I'm of course your eloquent host, Cooper Cobbs. Joining me today are three fine fellows, including myself. Across from me we got Mr. Bryson Bostwick.
Hey everybody.
A nice solid blue shirt, and in the suit and collared shirt, Mr. Tanner Lewis.
Hello.
With a nice little white pocket square peeking out from his suit pocket.
It's a silk kerchief.
It is a very beautiful silk
kerchief.
The reason I said three other people is because normally we have Mr. Isaiah Oretsky joining us, but today he is working on college courses online, so he is hard at work.
Or so he says.
Or so he says.
Well, I know. I like how we filmed another episode already today, and we didn't even mention
forgot
what
to
he was doing at all.
We forgot to mention that he was doing
So
college
sorry,
stuff.
Isaiah. I mean, you're going to listen to it, and you'd be like, wow, they didn't
I
even
know,
mention
we
me.
didn't even acknowledge him. Well, he exists, but not here, right, currently. So
He still exists. He's just not with us.
if Isaiah is not on the podcast, does
I
he
do not
normally
know that Isaiah
exactly.
exists right
We could know. We could never know.
so my opponent framed me.
Well, that is a very good microcosm of what our podcast is like, making fun of our friends, talking about philosophy, and mentioning a book every now and then. So, I'm kidding. Today we're talking about Indy Wilson's Outlaws of Time. We did 100 Cupboards, another Indy Wilson book, a couple episodes ago, and that was a lot of fun. And we decided to do it another one on Indy Wilson. So
another Indy Wilson roasting episode.
No, we love Outlaws of Time. Well, actually, I forget. Did you like it, Outlaws of Time, or no?
Yeah, I did. Well, speaking like,
we'll get there. Tanner, when was the last time you read Outlaws of Time?
I'm going to shoot for 6 months ago.
6 months? Cool. For me, it's been like 2 years. So.
Oh. Okay.
But I like Outlaws. I've read it a couple times. Bryson had just read it. And we're like,
Outlaws is such a good story. It's hard to forget.
It is.
Like,
it's good.
The story of it.
And we'll talk about it. I think of all of Indy Wilson's books, this one sticks with me the most.
Yeah, because despite how much I love Ashtown, right, and it being my favorite of them, it's the hardest to stick with, like, to remember details.
It's dense. It's got a lot of the stuff thrown in.
Yeah.
Which is great. Cool.
But definitely not, as you said, it's not sticky.
Yeah. It may just be his style, too, or what he's trying to do. I don't know. We'll get into it.
Yeah, I guess that's part of it. Like, this one's less ethereal than a lot of his other books. Like, his other books are so much more...
Well, for me here, he's working with a lot of things, but broadly it's just, what if you had time travel and Western? And I'm like, I like that, you know? Whereas...
magnificent.
It is magnificent, and we'll talk about it. But I think Ashtown is definitely like adventure story with all these Greek and cool references thrown in and just stirred up into a giant pot. And I liked it when I read it. I need to read it again probably when the new book comes out. But I have a lot of people love it.
I have a friend that I don't speak to anymore. I basically just stole these from him.
Outlaws or Ashtown?
Ashtown. Okay. I have the first 15 chapters of the new book of Ashtown.
Nice.
That I haven't read it all the way through.
Nice.
So anyway, I basically stole them from him.
Okay, we'll get there. I guess we just need to, we're already in discussion, but take a step back. Bryson, what is your history with Indy Wilson, with his books, and with Outlaws of Time?
Yeah, so Indy Wilson entire, I don't think I had ever heard of him until I went to a summer camp in Moscow, Idaho, which is where New St. Andrews College is, and we got to sit in on a podcast that he was recording with his friend Brian Cole, and Stories Are Soul Food. And I was like, man, this is, I don't know, all the questions, like it was a live studio audience, and all of us high schoolers were asking him questions. And so it sounded really great, like their responses to everything, and very good humored, well thought out responses. And so I was like, well, I mean, these guys sound like they know what they're talking about. They are quite funny and very well educated. So I decided to go back, listen to the very beginning of Stories Are Soul Food, and then I think that's where I first heard about his books. I'm pretty sure was him actually introducing his own books on the podcast. So
and have you started reading through them, I guess, right?
Yeah. So about how long ago? Maybe 2 months ago. Probably less than that.
Well, we did in end of January. We talked about 100 Cupboards. So you'd read all of them.
Okay, yeah. So first I read Lee Pike Ridge. Mm-hmm. Then I bought all of all of 100 Cupboards and all of Outlaws of Time, and read 100 Cupboards. Yeah, finished that in January. Then right after that, I think I went into Outlaws of Time. So read that probably February, March, and I think that's the fastest I've read through books in a while.
I think last time I reread Outlaws, I read the first book like in a day.
Oh yeah, easily.
It goes by fast.
Yeah, I think I got like the entire series done like the first time that I read it in probably less than a week.
Yeah.
Like maybe 3 or 4 days.
Yeah. It's good stuff. I was going to ask, like, in terms of people can go back and listen to 100 Cupboards where we kind of talk through a lot of that stuff, but just your overall thoughts on his style, his stories, maybe how you would rank the stories that you read.
He does talk about in his podcast just how he tries to not necessarily make a great story when he's first writing it, but just make one good section, one good brick at a time. And you definitely notice that, like, especially in 100 Cupboards, lots of many parts of it are very dense, and you can't help but just be like, okay, whoa, this is a lot to be taken in at one time, and you sometimes miss everything that's going on. That's what the criticism I've had for Tolkien for the longest time is just sometimes it's way too much. It's way too dense. So overall, I think he's not the best writer.
Okay. Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
sure. Like compared to who? Like Austen, Tolstoy.
Yeah. Lewis, Jane Austen is definitely going to be one of my tops. We kind of put him on the same level as Andrew Peterson. I think Andrew Peterson writes better stories. Indy Wilson writes better, but doesn't have as good of a story.
Okay.
I will say, Outlaws of Time, amazing plot.
I agree.
Like,
also, I think
I think it blows 100 Cupboards out of the water.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, it's that, like, I'm hooked from the very beginning of the first book when he first realizes, when Sam first kind of starts realizing what's going on and the notes that are being dropped and all that.
Oh yeah.
I'm hooked from the beginning, and just like even the cover, I'm like, what on earth is going on?
Here, can anyone jump in and say something real quick here?
100 Covers has just never been my favorite. Like,
yeah.
It didn't. This is the first one that I read, and so it's not that this one blew 100 Cupboards out of the water. It's that this one, the 100 Cupboards could not compare to what this one was.
Yeah. I saw a clip with Indy Wilson talking to the author of the Pinderwicks. Have you guys read that series before?
No, but I've heard of it.
Okay, yeah. Anyway, yeah, and it's a nice, like...
I have. It's good.
It's good. My family listened to him in the car a while ago. I mean, you can't compare it, Bryson. Like, they're so different.
They're like, it's
hers won the National Book Award, I think.
It's super good.
No.
It's like Little Women tried to be a modern book.
And, yeah, it was a lot younger. Well, there's several books.
But it's not Little Women, though.
Right. But
like,
it's good.
That's why it's good.
It's good stuff.
It's because it's the themes of all of those older books, but it's kind of been like characterized into a newer thing.
Yeah, but you didn't really lose any of the richness and depth.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, he was joking with, like, his cover has snake arms and evil man with, like, time watches, and her book has silhouettes of a family walking. You know, it's funny. But yeah, I agree. The cover is pretty awesome. So, anything else you want to say about your history before we get Tanner's?
So yeah, first read 100 Cupboards, then Outlaws. I'm waiting to start Ashtown Burials.
You read Boys of Blur?
I have not read Boys of Blur. I have Dragon's Tooth and Boys of Blur ready to read. I just haven't had time yet.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, right now.
And you say Outlaws is your favorite so far?
Outlaws book 1 is my favorite out of everything I've read of his so far.
Okay, I guess it's my turn. I actually don't remember when I started reading this. Outlaws specifically. This was my first experience with Andy Wilson, though. Or I do know that for a fact. I didn't know I was skipping. In all honesty, I thought I was.
There's no definitive reading order.
It's not like it's a big. I mean,
it is, but it's okay.
Okay. I had no idea.
It was shared.
I was bored one day, and it was on Amazon. Kindle Unlimited. Yeah. Right, and this is back when I was on my Kindle like all the time.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I was like, seems interesting. So I started reading it, and I blazed through it when I did get to it. But I truly think it was probably like 2 or 3 years ago, maybe more.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely while we've been doing the podcast. Like, that was the first time I read it was while the podcast was here. So it wasn't pre-COVID.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely post-COVID. Anyways, Outlaws of Time, amazing. First experience, definitely holds a place in my heart. Does not compare to Ashtown Burials, but definitely sticks with you a lot more.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, for me, I think that used to be, Mom would just try to keep up with my voracious reading appetite and would just like pick up 5 books at the library every other week and just drop them on my, nightstand. And so Indy Wilson, whenever you find like an author, you're like, okay, I can trust all they've written. And then you just kind of like, bring in reams of their books. So Mom did that, and it was like I knew where the Indy Wilson shelf was at the library. Actually, not this library that we're recording at, but the Plano library, the Parr library. Anyway, I knew where that shelf was. I was allowed to grab any one of those books, and so kind of read through his entire canon. Lee Pike has been it's been a good one. I don't think it's like as deep. It's kind of simpler, but I like it a lot.
Yeah.
It's easy to read. The Hundred Cupboards and Ashtown and Boys of Blue are all read. I need to return to Ashtown and Boys of Blue. I haven't read those more than once, but they don't stick with me, so I need to reread them.
Mm-hmm.
Then Outlaws I remember liking a lot, so much that I asked, this was the first Indy Wilson book I owned, I think.
Okay.
Because we own 100 Cupboards, the whole thing, and Outlaws. So I asked for that and loved it a lot. And I remember rereading it a couple years ago over Christmas. We were going to the Dallas Arboretum for whatever reason, and on the drive there I read a lot of the book and really ate it up. So I've always loved Outlaws, and like Bryson said, I think Indy Wilson is an excellent writer. I think sometimes what he's trying to communicate, the story he's trying to communicate, can get lost in the beautiful poetry of his words. But I do have a huge respect for him, and I am glad that he exists.
Yeah, of course.
And is writing these stories. So I think I agree with you that Andrew Peterson, Winged Feathers is a better story than a lot of things he told. Maybe Outlaws being an exception, but he's definitely probably a line-for-line better writer than Andrew Peterson. So that's where my thoughts are. Anyway, Outlaws of Time. Anything else anybody needs to say before we dive into discussing it?
It is a time travel book. So there's going to be problems.
Yes. What's that? We have a famous line Tanner said a long time ago. Do you remember that, Bryson? You listened to that episode?
I'm sure I have.
Every time travel explanation almost works.
Yeah. That's in the, what is it? It's a
Sound of Thunder. Yeah.
Sound of Thunder. That's it. Go back and listen to that episode. It's actually a really good episode.
For once, I was actually enlightening and brought something to the podcast besides a joke.
I mean, wow, it's kind of undervalued the 130 episodes that you've been on, but yeah. No, Tanner says plenty of good things.
I'm undervaluing my position.
Yeah. No, I get it. It's all good. All good.
I'm allowed to be self-deprecating, Cooper.
You are. It's true.
It was a good joke.
It's the name of our podcast.
It was a good joke. That's my purpose on this podcast.
It is. Okay. So all of us have said the Outlaws have stuck with us.
That was a funny joke.
All of us have said the Outlaws have stuck with us over and against some of the other stuff, at least for Tanner and I. Why do you think that is? I guess, Tanner, since it's stuck with you, what is it about Outlaws that has stuck with you?
It's the creativity of the story, right?
Okay.
Like, I think that there's a lot of weird things that you can do with I think of Ashtown and 100 Cupboards, right? Like, they're both really good and they're both unique, right? But they just have so many semblances to other stories that I've read before, and I think for even other time travel stories that I've read, no offense, I forget what the name of your book was. What was the other one? Once Was a Time?
Yes.
Yeah, is that the name of it?
Yes.
Yeah. I think I read that before I started reading these.
Oh, yeah?
Okay. And that might have been the reason why I picked these up, just because I was into time travel at the time, right? After reading that book, I picked these up, and I really liked them a lot more than that was your favorite book at the time.
Yeah, it's not anymore, but yeah.
Anyways, and so I think that it's just the creativity of the idea, the meshing of the stories that it has,
the genre mixing,
genre mixing, the almost just the purity of what the story is, right? It doesn't feel like it was trying to be anything else besides what it was.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Bryson, for you, what makes this stand above the other Indy Wilson you've read so far?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. So much more creative than probably 90% of what I've read. I could not have come up with any of these ideas on my own, and
you heard one of them came to him in a dream, right? He said he had a feverish dream where a Navajo man grafted snakes into his arms.
Yeah.
He woke up and was like, I can sell this. I can sell this to people and they will buy.
Which, I mean, only happens in our wildest dreams.
Right,
so
correct, right.
That's makes perfect sense why it would be in this book. That's crazy amazing. So, yeah. I don't know. Why does it stick with me? It has that same character that doesn't know what's going on, that we can kind of relate to, that nothing is really working out for him, and then bang, like everything just changes, and he is all of a sudden this amazing hero. Kind of reminds me of Harry Potter, but shouldn't. Just like that, you didn't really think you were anything, but now, because of nothing you did, you are now this amazing hero. Mm-hmm. And just, like, not only having these amazing characters, but then, like, giving animals personalities as well with the snakes, and just, like, not having them talk. Right. But giving them something that we can really believe in actuality could be real. Mm-hmm. Giving snakes different character qualities and different reactions to events, and
the fact like that one snake will only not kill and the other snake will just kill. It's so real.
Wild, but
it's like if someone could graft snakes into my arms, that's how they would be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another thing that just struck me was, like, I remember the rhythm, the cadence of the story just being so impeccable, right? Like,
the pacing or the style?
The pacing. Like, the pacing of the book, like the way that the story progresses, just like as a storyline, is just so good, right? Like, it never once leaves you in a boring section to a point where you would want to set the book down for a little bit, right?
It makes you want to keep
like
turning.
It would make you want to pick it up again so that you can get through that part.
It is written like a screenplay almost, like to where like scene to scene to scene, you're just like bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
You don't ever feel like you're being rushed through it.
Exactly, because that's like the way that he set up his time travel, which is so good, just so good. Like the way that he set up like the story to match the way that
you can like just call up past selves and be transported into scenes only after a death in the past.
Exactly.
Yeah,
just so good.
Yeah, I like it. I agree. I think that I'm impressed when anybody can come up with a kind of unique, creative way to do time travel now. There's so many stories like that, so I respect it a lot. For me, what sticks out is I care about the characters a lot more in this one. Mm-hmm. I like the dynamic of Gloria and Sam. I like Sam's story, and in fact, like in the past, he like ditched his sister, but then actually he's got to go and stand up for her and make his dad proud. You know, that kind of whole backstory. I really like that, and so I think Sam just won my respect and my adoration for doing that, going back to save his sister and things like that.
Yeah, it's not the same character journey of Henry, which is basically he's been almost a wimp.
Yeah.
He's been protected his whole life, and he has to become a man. This one is not only has he been a coward, but he's made the same decision over and over again to reject, to run away from his duties, to forsake his sister and everything that he loves. And protect himself, and he has to learn to overcome that and learn to make the right decisions consistently over and over again, so that everything finally works out, and so that the plot of the book will be driven forward, but also so that he will eventually win the day.
There's this awesome moment in the Wheel of Time book 2 where something similar happens to where this guy's being tempted by the dark side or whatever. He's like, "Join me in all of your past lives you have." Joined to me. And the guy was like, "No, I've never joined you in all my lives. I know that now, and I won't now." And so then he says, "I'll come at me, bro," kind of thing. Anyway, this is better because it's not like a cyclical time loop,
Yeah.
To where it's like, okay, this is going to be done again and again and again. To where like time is going somewhere, but it's still, you can jump back and forth in between it. And so he's failed before, but now he gets to do this moment again. Because isn't the plot of the book like they've done this many times? And this is they have to do this now in order for it to work. And so finally, on one timeline, he gets a shot to make it work, and he does it this time. That really resonated with me and made it stick. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just like, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I think that the biggest thing that I remember was the final book, the third book.
You mean the awful book?
You see, I don't think it's as awful as we think it is. Okay, it's not.
Oh, it is.
You're not saying that in the mic, buddy. You need to say that.
Oh, it is. It is just every bit as awful as I believe it to be.
I need your thoughts on the third book now before I say anything.
Really? So here's the thing. I did not realize there was going to be a third book.
The whole story falls apart in book 3.
Here's the deal. So I did not know that book 3 was going to exist. I was like, book 2, spoiler alert, deals with the main bad guy. You know, seems like the story's over. Then I was at a homeschool conference, as one does, with my mom. And she actually got the book signed by Andy Wilson, the final one. Actually, let me see what it says. Let's see here. He said, "For Cooper, every hero needs to be part nightmare!" ! Cheers, Andy Wilson. So pretty awesome, actually. But
It's such a great quote.
it is a good quote. But yeah, I remember reading it and just being like, huh? You know, being like, this kind of. First, I agree with Bryce who talked about this. Like, two main characters, not great. Like, their interaction is not the same as Glory and Sam. They are flawed, but not flawed in the same way that Sam and Glory are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have confidence, like, I want to root for them to get better. These characters, like, I don't want to root for them as they are, even though they make it better. Also, it's like its own contained story. Like, it deals with most of the things. Like, it's not even continuing the next 2 books. It's kind of resolving some of the threads that were left open, but still, like, doing its own story, and that kind of falls apart. There are a couple of good scenes, like the cover scene is actually a pretty good scene. It's pretty
Every scene
heartrending.
that has Sam and Glory
Every scene that has the old good characters in it is good. I need to read it again. Honestly, this is making me want to go back and like reread all these.
Yeah.
I probably should have tried to do that before.
Well, and I
today
know
too, but
if I was speaking to Andy Wilson about this, he would say, "Grow up. I wrote it this way."
Here's why. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. Like, it's not that way because I didn't want it to be that way, and that's all he's gonna say. But third book, kind of even in second book, but mainly third book, I expected us to go back and explain, number one, why Sam had to be the person, why Sam had to be the one that was going to kill the vulture, and number two, why the vulture was the vulture. Like, where did the vulture come from? Where did what's her name come from? Mrs. Dervish come from? Like, we didn't get any explanation as to how this all began, or like, in the third book you kind of get some of the history with the Aztec everything, and Miss Dervish and her whatever spirit sisters, and how this is all related to Aztec demonic stuff. But still, like, I wanted, where did the vulture come from? Why did the vulture have to be the one? And why did Sam, like, I wanted to go back in time to when Sam was being chased from, where did they live? Kentucky? When he lived with Millie.
Right.
I wanted to go back to that. I
Was
mean,
West
I was fine with all the, what?
West Virginia, maybe?
It was over in that region.
Yeah, it's in that region.
They were
Bluegrass
getting on the
country.
train to come back to, like, they were like in grass country trying to go west, if I remember correctly.
I said bluegrass country, but yeah, grass country too.
I don't know, Andy Wilson would just say, well, that's not where this story was meant to go. And I'd be like, oh, well, what can I do? I'm not the author of the story. But still, I 100% think he should have gone back and told that story. I would have been much more interested in that than finding out what happens to... I mean, it was an interesting plot with finding... I mean, obviously spoilers here. Finding out that this is Sam and Glory's son. What's his name? Alex.
Yeah.
And that he is this character that can very easily be taken over by the dark side and can be usurped for evil. And then there's this other random side character that comes along, and she's going to encourage this everything that's wrong and everything that is just the everything that is bad in him. She's going to encourage, and like you said, those were characters that I couldn't get behind, that I couldn't want to even succeed. Like, I wanted, like, like at the end of the third book, they come back and show, who is it? Someone kills Miss Dervish when she comes to take Alex outside of his house. I wanted to see, what's her name, get Rhonda gotten rid of right away then too. I was like, man, get rid of her too. I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of jumping ahead.
Yeah, it's okay. What was Tanner saying? Do you want to go back to that?
I don't remember what I was saying.
Yeah, I figured. I thought I asked,
went on such a rant that I like
I
totally just zoned out
That's
of
our
where
fault.
I was going to go with that.
I was gonna say, oh yes, anything with style, like the style for me. Do you guys better, worse, different thoughts?
This one's definitely different than the other ones. Like especially Ashtown, it's not as dense as Ashtown, and it also doesn't. At least from this is all speaking from memory.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I don't remember it to be as dense as Ashtown, and I also don't remember it to be as flowy. I guess is the best word for it, as 100 Cupboards. It's more of like a. It feels like a west. Like it feels like it's written to be a space western type thing.
Yeah.
You know.
I feel like there's a whole lot more dialogue in this too for some reason.
I agree. I think that the way you look at it, it's pretty sparse description, a lot of dialogue. Yeah, I agree. I think that it's simple but poetic. Like I was reading some descriptions, and it was like he had a colony of freckles on his face, and he looked like something new made out of old things. Like he's really good. He has a knack for those kind of things, and he really nailed it. For whatever reason, clear, good stuff here. So
yeah. Plus, you just can't beat the snakes in the arms.
Yeah,
like
true.
The snakes in the arms is what sells the book.
Yeah, the concepts here are really good. It's easy to pitch. It's a gunslinger with time travel.
And what's amazing is like you get so excited about Sam, and then you find out what Glory is going to be coming. You're just like, what on earth? My mind is blown. Like, how can you have one character that is so great, and then are you disagreeing with me?
No, you keep going.
One character that is so great, and then have another character that not only supports him and encourages him and is fighting by his side, but also is so much more powerful than him too.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, that more powerful stuff. I was kind of getting annoyed later because I'm like, I think that Sam's so much cooler than her, but like, I don't appreciate the fact that she's stronger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of was Team Sam the whole time. Yeah, so I kind of see what you're saying. Just like,
but like, there's like, to me, it's fun to see Sam just go down 1-on-1, be the Vulture, and nothing else but just him and his snake arms, and be like, I'm gonna outshoot you, bro, and that's cool to me. Like, I would much rather see that than, like, this is why in game, just like watching CGI people, like, there's no emotional attachment, but watching someone maybe don't have these cool superhuman weapons, the Infinity Stones or whatever, but just watching them 1-on-1 with a sword, 1-on-1 with a gun, super satisfying.
Exactly. Especially when he can see with his hands.
True.
The scene
Thermal
with
radiation.
hands thing stuck with me really hard.
Yeah. One of the things that stuck with me from the second book was him eating a fig bar in Seattle and liking it, but not wanting to show Glory that he liked it because she was annoyed at him for some reason. Anyway, there's like very specific things I can remember because he just kind of nailed those aspects of it as well.
yeah, and
Tactile.
their relationship is so perfect.
It's good. Their dynamic is awesome, which is maybe one of the reasons why we didn't like the last book as well. Is because the dynamic just I didn't enjoy a ton. So
yeah, and I like starting off the first book. It's just like she's just a random girl that he just like he looks across a pavilion and sees her, and just like something in the back of your mind knows, oh yeah, that's the girl on the cover that he's probably gonna end up marrying her someday. Like that's the girl. But the way he describes her is just like, I don't know, so plain, so relatable, and then you finally grow to love her as the other part of Sam. Yeah, the one that's keeping him straight.
Another thing that works here is that he's not dumbing down, but it makes it work. Like, so The Hobbit is a kid's story compared to Lord of the Rings, and you can just tell from the complexity of things. But Tolkien is still dealing with deep questions, like the nature of luck, the nature of like monsters and dragon sickness and greed and things like that. But it's easy and relatable for kids to enter into the story, enjoy it, and still interact with these themes. I think the same is true for Outlaws. Like, he is dealing with these massive themes that kids can feel the weight of, but it doesn't prevent them from entering into the story. So just like the fact that there are, the 12 disciples, basically, they have kind of like the funny names that are like, not like Baptizo. Oh, okay. John the Baptist, I guess. And Jimmy Z. Okay, it's Sons of Zebedee, right? James, the son of Zebedee. You kind of enter into those and feel the weight of those. And then just the references to, a lot of other history and the OK Corral and that kind of fun history thrown into. Then also the fun thing with just the legend of Poncho and then the story that keeps adapting and changing is just really fun. So like kind of having these cool complex ideas, you can feel the weight of the biblical themes coming in that doesn't prevent kids from entering in. In fact, it makes it richer and deeper for them when they come in. It doesn't dumb it down for kids.
Yeah, and the experience that I felt like I was getting was we had so I just watched Edge of Tomorrow. It really feels like that.
Yeah.
Edge of Tomorrow, any Western gunslinger and Holes all combined together. One big series, one big story.
Yeah.
But yeah, just whole first book, amazing. Going into the second book, Vulture, a great like you have I think every good villain needs to have really well thought out or really hateable henchmen too.
Yes.
If you only have.
True. And that can't just be like faceless either.
Yeah. So having the bootlegger guy, I can't remember what his name is, but someone that Sam keeps coming to fight against, and keeps seeing every time he restarts certain moments, really helps build the anticipation for the big fight when he's finally gonna face the Vulture in the end, and you get real. Anxious but also excited for that moment that's finally going to happen.
Yeah.
And then it happens, but it doesn't happen.
You're right.
Like it could have been like this would have been amazing book if Vulture dies at the end.
It could be a one-stop shop, maybe.
Yeah, I totally would expected that to happen, and the next book be something completely different.
Yeah, it'd be fun to have a serial story of them doing different things. That's pretty cool. Yeah. You guys felt like he managed to do the Navajo, Arizona, Western gunslinger themes?
Oh yeah, I love the Arizona theme.
Yeah,
it wasn't speaking from experience, having been to both Mexico and Arizona. The two of them have significantly different feels.
Yeah,
and this one captures the feel of Arizona. Right, and I'm perfectly okay with that because there are few good Western stories that capture the actual essence of Arizona, because everybody tries to throw it into New Mexico or southern Texas,
right,
in every movie that has ever existed, because Arizona is a stupid state and
Western. There's a difference between
fiction,
the South and the Southwest, and Arizona is squarely Southwest.
Yeah,
and he nails that.
He hit perfectly.
So,
and I mean, since I don't have much of a view or much knowledge of the Southwest, I guess it's really easy for him to hit that mark.
And to me, this is where he's strong because
you're an Eastern boy.
If anybody has if there is
Southeastern,
part of American mythology is the West. You know what I mean? Even if some of us can't relate to it as much as other people can, America is a nation of immigrants who came here from Europe. They came here from Asia. They came here from wherever. And so the West is just kind of Americans doing it in their own country, but it's kind of the symbolic nature of everybody's come here from somewhere else. We've all traveled here. And so, but the mythology of the Southwest, making your own name, outlaws, all that kind of stuff, is just kind of, it rings true for Americans. And
Americans have pioneering blood. All of us. Because we're almost all immigrants.
True.
Right?
At least we are within a couple centuries of people who have.
We are not, compared to other people groups.
Correct.
We are not very far from
we are
being
a very new
pioneers.
nation.
We are very new.
We are a
very new race, very new nation.
Yes.
Very new language, dialect of English. Anyways, so the myth of the West is only growing as we get farther and farther away.
And
from
as
the true pioneering
Americans
spirit.
become more insecure about who we are.
True that.
So, we talked about it with the Aeneid too, of the need to have a story.
Yeah, as we start to doubt whether American is actually a thing we want to label ourselves.
Right, or what it even means to be American, or should I cling to my old cultural heritage?
Yeah, Miss Emily was talking about, is all we can say, well, we cook hamburgers and hot dogs.
Right,
that's who we are.
And we celebrate fireworks on 4th of July. And
Yeah, just the idea of what is our story compared to Greeks had the
Homer,
legend, had Homer, the Romans had Virgil,
the medievals had Dante. They had Virgil. They borrowed.
Yeah, they
They
borrowed.
had their own story. They had Beowulf, Song of Roland. They had all these things. Yeah.
The
medievals weren't insecure, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They had a lot of things.
The pre-moderns had
They had their own creation narratives. I mean, if they weren't awesome.
I mean,
they were beautiful.
And then we had the more towards the pioneering era. Like as we moved more closer towards that, they started to have all of the medieval stuff turn into their stories, right? Like we were conquerors, we were explorers,
Right.
we found such and such place, right? And then America gets here, and we're like, we got the
Where else
first
is there to
person
go?
to the moon.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
We don't even know if that happened because there's conspiracy theories now.
Okay, we know what happened.
I know, I'm joking.
Yeah,
I'm just
I get
displaying,
it.
right? Like the fact that even some people doubt it, right? And that like it's big enough to have that much traction that I can talk about it is like just showing the insecurity that America has about what our story is, right? Because let's be honest, the Pilgrims does not ring the same way that like Beowulf has. Beowulf would, or Homer would.
Yeah.
Anyways.
And that was a rant about mythology.
Well, so yeah, I mean, we do have all this amazing history.
Right, we do. We have heroes.
Yeah, we have founding fathers that were willing to give everything and put all their chips in, lay all their cards on the table, and be willing to say, I will stand and I will die for the freedom of millions of people that will come behind me.
Right.
And not only freedom to do what they want to do, freedom to believe what they want to believe, what they need to believe, and building everything on God's word so that it would stay true. And you see, we're starting to fall apart now because we've shifted from that base. Our base no longer is on God's word, and we no longer we're in a time where we claim we don't really have any morals anymore, or we claim that there isn't such a thing as truth. So what do you think? What do you think we're going to do with our national history and heritage? Like, of course, we're going to throw it in the water and just say, okay, we don't believe this anymore. Now we got to go make something of ourselves instead of realize
make our own meaning.
We already are, and what history we already have as Americans.
Yeah. We don't understand like the weight of our ancestors and the history and the tradition and the heritage that we have now. If we do, we call it racist or bigotry. Yeah, it's
just like every nation has its faults and flaws.
Right.
America did too.
Oh yeah, tons.
But that doesn't negate the fact that we still were and are a great nation.
Right. Speaking of great, Sam and Gloria great.
Yes, yeah. Back
the
to
Vulture is a great villain.
More like the story, like this just displays how Americans hunger for our story.
Yeah.
Right? Like, just we have a craving for something to be our own, and to like try and find a story that's going to be like the great American story. Like, like not even just like we know what it's going to be. It's going to be something about moving west, right? But like we haven't mythicized anything yet. You
True.
know?
Yeah. Any other thoughts, guys? Anything else to say?
Any other thoughts? What on the books as a whole? I'm trying to remember. Like, so if the first book it just ended with the Vulture being killed, second book, I'm trying to remember what second book is about. It's about
they're on the run. They're in like Seattle.
Yes, they're in Seattle. They have all of the Lost Boys
Right.
are in this abandoned house, and Millie is being like the mother / caretaker of all of them. I didn't really say anything about her or about the rest of the Lost Boys, but I think that's also another amazing thing.
All the side characters pop.
Yes,
they pop.
Every single one of them has
personality character.
Yeah, just like Andy Wilson is constantly saying about Tolkien. It's like all of his side characters are just blah. Like they don't have.
He doesn't say that all the time.
Well, they just don't have character. Like they don't have personalities. It's just like this one attribute is attributed to each of these people. So I love seeing each and every one of these characters. Yeah, have something to contribute to the story instead of taking away from it. Like we didn't even talk about Father Tiempo,
right?
And what's the Manuelito, just like
Right.
these characters that are the mentors.
Right.
That like this story is firing on all cylinders. It
It
has
is.
all of the right things needed. It has an amazing story. It has perfect characters. It has just something that you're willing to follow along with and want more of. Like whole first book, I was turning pages very quickly. Second book, pretty much the same thing. Third book was like, I think I might have actually been reading the third book faster just to get it over with. So I don't know. I would still say go read the third book.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth it for finishing
And you can
Indy
disagree with us,
Wilson's
obviously.
story.
Yeah.
But I've decided to make up my own story in my own head.
Yeah, The Legend of Poncho has been rewritten and still changing, huh? Well,
Yes,
speaking
it
of
is.
great people, our patrons are great. Wouldn't you say, Tanner?
Oh, yes.
And
Our patrons are great.
yes.
We love them so
Oh, yeah.
much. And that is why, if you want to become a part of those great people and be one of those great people, you can go to patreon.com/bookinit. And if you want to hear your name on the show, you can donate to any of our $5 and up tiers. But donating below that does not make you any less great.
That's true. All right. We're going to shout out patrons. You're going to say if they would rather be in a sci-fi movie or a Western movie.
Ooh.
Nana?
Ooh, Western.
And Pappy and Wayla?
Definitely Western.
Mike and Sylvia?
Sci-fi.
Moses and Zara?
Sci-fi.
Angie and Uncle Sam?
Sci-fi.
Mr. Mike and Miss Laura?
I'm going to go with sci-fi.
Okay. Anna?
Ooh, I'll give her sci-fi as well.
Emily?
Yeah, Emily's going to land a little bit Western, I think.
Okay. Keenan?
Oh, 100% Western.
Yeah, 100%.
Plus, Emily is our farthest west out of
This is
all
true.
of our
Very far
out of
west.
all of our
The last
out of all of our
frontier, some
patrons.
called it. Howdy. It's obvious answer.
Oh yeah, obviously the
I think that was
Western.
Bryce's
Yeah, it's
call,
in the
but it's
name.
unanimous. So, Will?
Also Western.
Where did you put my mother, Tanner?
Ooh, your mother.
It's a hard one, I know.
Yeah, I'm
She'll-
gonna have to land Western.
Okay.
I think your mom
Yeah.
would land in the Western.
Sure, she wears bonnets, and I'm kidding, she doesn't. Mrs. Hall.
Western.
Okay. Kara?
Yeah, I'm gonna land Western as well.
Cool. Thank you guys for listening. Hope you enjoyed that. If you have recommendations or anything or thoughts, email us. I don't know.
Yes, please. I mean,
bookmanpod4@gmail.com.
we'd love to have more questions.
Yeah, please. Just
Questions
Q&A.
and ideas.
Hit us up. Love talking to you guys. So, anyway, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time with something else. And until then.
Keep on looking.